righty. Position everything.
Oh, wait. Hello?
Yes, I
Yes.
can
Oh,
hear you.
okay, okay, good. Everybody just went quiet for a second. It scared
Oh,
me. I really got scared.
Yeah, we left. We already left.
all righty. And I'm ready if you all are ready. So let's kick this off.
All right, wonderful. Well, welcome everyone to today's panel on diversity in designing immersive experiences. We are very pleased to have members of the CyberXR Coalition with us here today. And the president and CEO of the CyberXR Coalition is April Boyd-Noronha. And April has over 20 years of experience in academia and advanced technologies as a thought leader and advisor on operational excellence, business transformation, and customer experience, primarily centered on emerging trends and the future of work at the intersection of diversity, equity, and inclusion. She is the president of the CyberXR Coalition, which was launched to address the need for diversity and inclusion in the cybersecurity and XR domain. In her role as the Global Diversity and Inclusion Advisor and board member for the XR Safety Initiative, or XRSI, April collaborates with global partners and allies to help build safe, immersive environments for all. So please join me in hitting F4 to give a round of applause to welcome April and the other members of the CyberXR Coalition. Great. Wonderful. All right, I will turn it over to you, April.
All righty. Thank you, Karen. We're glad that you all have decided to join us for today's discussion on developing a blueprint for designing inclusive and accessible digital experiences, all the while creating equitable spaces in XR for our historically marginalized populations. Panel consists of CyberXR members and advisors who will share valuable insight on at least four particular points: formulating foundational standards for immersive technologies, curating global collaborative relationships, creating continuous innovation, and maintaining a strategic mindset. So, with that said, I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves and then we'll get started with the discussion. Alina?
Hi everyone. I'm Alina. I'm the lead strategist of CyberXR Coalition, and I'm design researcher by day and WebXR developer and designer, and also managing director of OpenAir Clouds Europe. And really happy to be part of this panel and discussion today. Great to meet you all.
Hi, hello. My name is Janey Laney, and I am an advisor with the CyberXR Coalition. And I am also the creator of Black Minecraft, which is my initiative to put more diversity and inclusion in the game of Minecraft. And I'm also a streamer on Facebook Gaming.
Cool. Hi, my name is Zach. I'm advisor at CyberXR. I'm co-founder and CEO of Exhibit, an augmented reality startup based in Berlin, Germany, and I'm joining right now from Germany. So I'm super excited to be here, and yeah, looking forward.
Thank you all. And I wanted to just present a backdrop or context to what CyberXR Coalition really is, the nuts and bolts of what makes us as dynamic as we are. So in 2020, the CyberX Coalition strategically positioned itself as the leading global entity to take on specific targets to create better representation and to decrease those known and unknown barriers of entry for historically marginalized populations in three particular realms: XR, cybersecurity, and spatial computing. So our founding members and advisors, some that you see here, represent areas from Japan, Germany, the UK, India, and of course the US. And we're still expanding our newest advisor, as you saw here, Zach, representing Berlin here today. So we focus on intentionally influencing a global effort on awareness and impact. Now, also last year, we are so still geeked about the fact that we launched the first ever immersive technology standards. And we featured four initial pillars. They're not all inclusive, but we thought this is probably where we need to start in this ecosystem. And those four initial pillars were accessibility, diversity and inclusion, ethics and awareness, and trust and safety. So during our first year, the CyberX Coalition was the leading authority and authentic voice. We were featured on panels and as keynotes virtually in nearly every region: Dubai, Germany, the US, and etc. And furthermore, the CyberXR challenged the big notion, the tech notion that, creating the next best thing solely for the sake of innovation. And we challenged this notion that instead we encouraged a human-centric concept, and equally, if not more important, that it be firmly baked into critical frameworks within all emerging technology. So with that said, I'm going to turn to Alina. And Alina, a lot of times what our mission boils down to is helping others in and within and outside actually of this XR ecosystem understand where actually this our impact and awareness occurs. Where does that actual that intersection occur, in big tech and small, big businesses? Where do we see this impact and awareness component?
Sure. I mean, obviously, we are talking about tomorrow, but and it's key that we build safe and trustworthy ecosystem for the benefit of all, and making sure that we sort of learn from the web mistakes from the web era that we've made, and making sure that we build safe ecosystems that actually benefit all. And we can already see that sort of need occur today, as we are highlighting historically marginalized population today. I mean, Snap already made a huge milestone last week by presenting their inclusive camera. And to be quite frankly, I thought, okay, we have so many great emerging technologies, but why is there still a population in our society that can't take as accurate selfies and share with their friends and their families where they are and what they do and what they experience like everybody else does? And I was quite surprised when I heard that they're actually rebuilding their platform and in implementing that sort of technology into their ecosystem. And I was quite surprised that it wasn't even done yet. So yeah, so we see a need that, and there's still people in our society that don't have access to the technology that we are building today. Also, when it comes to headsets, people with turbans, and I mean, one thing to build that for the target group, but it's also important to have a diverse group from the product, even from the ideation part. So the more diverse and colorful like our society, the product team is, the better the future is that we actually build.
Right, the better and more diverse and inclusive the overall experience for
Yeah.
the users can be. And even if we look at it from the business perspective, if that is if diversity and inclusion and that human-centric component is already baked within the framework, that also will mean less iteration for the companies, such as what you mentioned, that they won't have to go back to square one. If they have that representation at the table throughout that whole process, that only helps them as well. One thing that as the president of the CyberXR Coalition, we wanted to be clear that some things will just happen. There will be unintended consequences just from the process, of creating something new or adjusting a process or a principle of that sort. And we understand that. Okay. So and with that understanding in mind, we understand that it is a shared responsibility. One of the points that I mentioned earlier is that were very intentional, making sure that the shared responsibilities of helping to right the wrongs, so to speak, um, had to be from a global perspective. And with that intention, that further helps us expand and talk more openly about the importance of this impact and the awareness of diversity and inclusion from the onset. Um, One of our newest advisors, Janey, let's kind of help shift the conversation here and talk a bit about the need for diversity and inclusion and a sense of belonging in the overall XR ecosystem. And we hear about that a lot. And honestly, I'll be a little transparent here. One of the main reasons why we sought you, Janey, as an advisor for us is that we saw that you saw a need. And equally, if not more important, you saw the need and took action. And that's one thing, kind of just a foundational piece to the CyberX Coalition. When we see things, and we'll call it out and we'll take action, but we take action, as I said, as a shared responsibility. So, the work that you've done, Janey, is really one of the reasons why we're proud to have you as an advisor. But share with the audience the need that you saw within the spatial computing, within gaming, within that ecosystem, and how you took action.
All right. So, hi once again. My name is Janey Laney, and the way that I saw things is probably not the most conventional way. I wanted to try out this game called Minecraft, and what ended up happening was it took me hours just to find a skin, just to find like pretty much like an avatar. It took me hours to realize that I actually had to pay to be black. So that was a big thing for me because I was like, wow, if they offer free skins, but in order to be black, in order to be a darker color, you had to pay for it. It really started making me question about the people who play the game and who are in the space. So I started doing my research and I started realizing that there were barely, if any, I think I only counted one or two um black people who were even in the space, let alone the other people of color. There was barely any. There was no spotlighting. Nobody knew anything about them. So I started realizing that there was a need, because if we can actually get more people of color out in the open and to be recognized, then it would make the gaming space, really a lot of part of the tech space, start to try to understand us more, to put us in there, and to know that we need to be represented because we do exist. So it was a scary way of finding the need, because I was live at the time and I was like, oh my god, I have to pay for this. One of my moderators did give me back $5. It was nice, but still, it was a big, huge thing to really, really see that I wasn't crazy. Like it was so scary. So that brings about the call of action. I decided to create Black Minecraft, and Black Minecraft is all about diversity and inclusion. We do focus a lot on the people of color because the people of color have predominantly been the ones who have been gate kept out of the system, and also pretty much roadblocked. Like there's gatekeeping and then there's a giant roadblock. And I wanted to be able to help bring everyone further There are people with over millions of subscribers on YouTube who play this game, but because of the color of their skin, they're not recognized. Because they speak Spanish, they're not recognized. They speak a whole different language, they are not recognized. And that's not fair. So I wanted for us to really delve deep into the gaming space because remember, we're all about technology, right? Well, if in the gaming space, people of color are not being recognized, kids are not going to be recognized for them wanting to go into video gaming. They're not going to be recognized and appreciated for them wanting to go into into robotics, into science and everything. It all trickles down to our future, which is children. If children can't even see themselves in a certain position, why would they work hard for it? How do we get parents to encourage their children to take the step forward in a space that does not ever want to see them there? So that's why I decided to take action because I was like, look, I want there to be more black scientists. I want there to be more black people in tech who don't have to be a little mouse, but that they could have a voice. They could offer up their opinions and their research, and for it to not get taken away from them because of the skin color, but for them to actually be celebrated. Like, yes, this person did this. Instead of saying, oh, the black guy over there thought of it, but I'm just going to go ahead and take it. What normally happens. So I really created this in order to go even further than the video gaming space, but to go into our future.
Exactly, and a component with one of the mission pillars of the CyberX Coalition is to uh, accelerate creating continuous innovation. Um, One of the things that, as we talk about with the panelists here, is that even when we and I'm shifting to you, Zach, when we're talking about creating continuous innovation, is that Zach, you were in the industry, so you're a professional, so you can talk the talk within tech, right? But
Yeah.
in your particular perspective, Zach, you even shifted the narrative further to where you are also an entrepreneur within the AR realm specifically. So you have a firsthand understanding of the need for accessibility and the visibility, kind of what even Janey talked about, the visibility that, persons of color are here within the XR ecosystem. And even to add to that, more so that especially in the MENA region. So, Zach, tell a little bit about your personal history and your professional experience that has brought you here. And once again, we're just glad that you are one of our advisors as well.
Yeah, sure. So I didn't mention in the intro two things. First, that's before starting my own augmented reality company, Exhibits. I worked for 6 years at SAP in Germany, and I also had the opportunity to work very close to the SAP leadership, to the CTO, to the head of innovation center, and I was mainly advising on augmented reality and virtual reality. So I had the opportunity to see it from a corporate point of view, how the big guys do things. Then with exhibits, seeing a little bit how the startups are acting in this field of augmented reality and virtual reality. I also am originally from Morocco, so I grew up in Morocco, and uh, being in Germany, I always compare how things are in Germany compared to Morocco because I'm still very connected to my home country. Um, Talking about diversity, this is something super close to my heart. First, because I just cannot escape it. Being Moroccan in Germany, so building a software that is more inclusive, that just takes in consideration the diversity of the world. Um, it's something that is very linked to my history, to my cultural background. Um, if I can talk about what I do when it comes to diversity, I do focus on two main components. First of all, um, the design and building basically or developing software in augmented and virtual reality that is inclusive. And for that, I always believe that if you want to build like an inclusive software, you need, or like a diverse software, you need a diverse team. So at Exhibit, we do have people from all nationalities, from China, Japan, Morocco, Germany, France. We make sure that we have different nationalities, different genders, different types of people building that software. And we do see that every day. So every single day, we see that the way we understand design, the way we our vision of the software is really very different from one person to the other, and this diversity just makes the software that we are building diverse. The second component, because I'm Moroccan, it's more like strategic, which is when I grew up in Morocco, we did not have access, I would say, to laptops till or like computers till a little bit like late compared to the rest of the world. And I do not want that the new generation in Morocco, in Africa, in North Africa, um, misses the chance of being um, like the first adopter of this technology. So I do contribute in the country. I try to explain to people that what is augmented reality, what is virtual reality, and I try to make it as accessible as I can. I can give a very simple story, for example, like Magic Leaps. Of course, a lot of people in Morocco cannot afford, for example, buying these Magic Leap headsets. So a lot of people, when I was speaking in Morocco and I explained to them how to develop on a Magic Leap, people were like, "Whoa, this is like 2,000. This is the income of my family for a year." So they cannot like buy a Magic Leap headset. But I try to find alternatives because you can still do something on Magic Leap and develop using these simulators on your laptop before you even buy the headset. It is a very challenging task, but I do think that giving the chance to people from also developing countries to understand what is augmented reality is very, very, very important.
And I agree. And once again, this is based, we at the CyberXR Coalition, we are very intentional with making sure that these and other
Yeah.
key principles are baked within the very fabric of whether it's a new process, whether it's a new product, as Zach, you just talked about, or whether it's a new experience or expanded experience, as Janey has talked about. So far, we've talked about diversity and inclusion, talked about an ethics and awareness, talked about accessibility, but a fourth pillar that we explored in the CyberXR Coalition's immersive technology standards was trust and safety. And I'm going to start with you, Janey, because that transparency and trust and safety is a concrete principle that has to be addressed, and actually an ongoing concept that needs to just kind of be within every experiences. Talk a little bit about that, because I know that as you were creating the Black to Minecraft, and as you are gaming, we've shared in personal conversations of how it's an open environment, and that is a critical perspective to um, further expanding and inviting others to that safe space that you've created. Talk a little bit more about that.
Um, so so I did start this going on 3 years ago. Um, I'm a live streamer. So essentially, how I talk to people is on my live streams and on Twitter. And so when I decided to do this, I at first I wasn't really worried about the safety concerns because like I was just worried about the fact that hey yo like where are the dark people at, like hello, like that's at first that's all I was worried about, but then I started realizing about the safety that comes from this. Like a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is straight public, and it has been very challenging because I have had to safeguard myself, because then you think about a lot of people who don't want diversity and inclusion. They could go ahead and look you up on the internet. They could do so many things to actually sabotage your life. So what I decided to do was, with my transparency, I also do have to safeguard myself. There's certain things I just don't put out there, this, that, and the third. But then also what I decided to do was I decided to kind of hold off on certain initiatives that I wanted to take because I wanted to make sure that I understood and I explored the area. And for me, that was fine. I could work at my own pace. When you're in a business doing this, sometimes there's you have to work at certain paces where you have to hurry up and put stuff out. But for me, I worked at my own pace. I thought and I looked about my area, and I did pitch this to a few different entities, including Minecraft themselves. I wanted to know what would happen if I went 100% public with this. And I did get some backing from some nice people and everything, but really where my trust came in was my confidence. So I decided to go ahead and I created a server on Minecraft, a game playing server. Okay. I had everyone fill out applications. I had them, list information about themselves. I did everything, made sure everything was secure. But I wanted just to make sure that the people that were going to help me with my initiative more closer to me, that they were really about their business. And for me, that's where the trust came in at, was just making sure that people really understood where I was coming from and that they were really supportive. Because there's so many times when I was being called the N word on stream, I was being told to die several times, like I was being threatened. So for me, the safety concern, the trust concern really came from me just trying to get to know my environment. And it has not been easy whatsoever. I have been told no from people who could have made a difference. I've been told no because they didn't feel like they were supposed to be safe. But I was the black girl and they weren't. And I'm like, I'm the one putting myself on the line. And you're saying this as a Caucasian person, you don't feel safe. Well, I'm letting you know now, you don't have the right to feel safe if it's about the people who are not you. Like you like your safety's already good. If anything, you guys are the ones who are harassing us and bothering my safety. So a lot of this really just honestly just came down to me having the conversations, building up that confidence, um and really being as transparent as I can be so that people know I have nothing up my sleeve. Making sure that any of my branding isn't associated with people who were not who were not in the right headspace and everything. So it's really been about honestly cultivating serious relationships, and that's why it's taken 3 years, to be honest, because this is not an easy task.
Right. Right. And I agree. And even as the president of the CyberX Coalition, we take this seriously as well. On a lot of panels that I've been on, I distinctly remember one where there was another African American female on the panel with me, and she, an audience member asked, does the racism and harassment, does it continue in XR? And we both paused. I mean, we knew the answer, but it was like, well, yeah, it does. It doesn't just stop at the door before you're teleported into an experience. There is a distinct possibility that it will continue and has. And to that point, she mentioned that while we were on that panel there, that she intentionally does not show up as her real self. Her avatar, is a purple or some random color, just because of that safety factor, just to protect her sanity and safety, and while she is in an immersive experience. So a lot of times when we talk about that sense of belonging, or when we talk about really taking those steps in the beginning of looking at that human centric concept being built within the framework, that can make all the difference. The president and CEO of the XRSI, are governing or overarching entity for the CyberX Coalition. She is a hijabi wearing female. And so that particular component is near and dear to her heart. And there's just things of that sort, when we really look at it from that human centric perspective, can shift the whole narrative. And that is why when we released our standards, immersive technology standards, we took the time to really look at what are the first four pillars that we need to address. And as I said before, it's not all inclusive, but we thought, where should we even start? It's so vast. So Zach, I want to turn to you from your perspective of just to kind of just keep this going of the safety and trust, and as you were pitching your idea of exhibit, and as you are promoting that, what are some components that you even had to take a step back, perhaps, or as you were building your team to really look at what are some factors that had to be baked within the framework of creating that product or expanding your company?
Um, yeah, I mean, there are things that are very related to XR. There are things that are just yeah, more you're related to the startup and to being an international founder. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this happened to us a lot at the very beginning when we were like small and when we just really started and we didn't have a name in Germany. We would just go as we are two foreign founders, and we would just go and pitch something that was kind of super magic. So what we were building at the very beginning is a mixed reality art platform using mainly headsets like Magic Leap and HoloLens, and later Unreal. And we wanted to really rethink the way human computer interaction is actually today. So we were building a software platform where there are no buttons, there is no text that you need to type, um, there is no scrolling, basically using purely hand gesture and eye tracking and a lot of contextual information. It was very, very futuristic. We wanted that when people are in any space, they do not experience it the same way. So you can place art around in your room, or even when you are walking outside, you can you don't see the world the same way you would see it without this goggle. So you can just see art floating everywhere. You can interact with it, and you can change it. So we wanted to add the visual component that to the experience that, for example, Spotify is kind of changing. So we wanted to be the art platform, the art mixed reality platform that is kind of similar to Spotify. And when we were pitching this very magical and big idea, being foreign founders, um, people were like, they asked us directly, where are you from? And I said Morocco, and then people didn't take us very seriously, really. And we even had some very harsh feedback where, or like, yeah, moments where people would talk to us and then ask us where are we from, and then when we say where I'm from, they just turn. Really, we had this situation where people would just turn around and just move on. They don't talk to us anymore. Um, but slowly, when we started getting global recognition, winning awards, being featured on Forbes, and a lot of media coverage, especially here in Germany and Europe, people started listening to us. And it took us a lot. It took us really a lot to just reach that point and just being heard and just being taken very seriously. So this is like one component when it comes to basically a startup. Um, yeah, I mean, in the XR field, something that I really wanted to mention is that I am technical, like I'm software engineer by like academic studies and stuff, and this is also what I did for a huge part of my life. um, there is a huge problem that we should also have and take in consideration, is that technology is kind of biased. So even the technology that's augmented and virtual reality are built on it, it's really very biased. And um, you can debate for like a long time if it makes sense or not, but um, like black or dark in for example in augmented reality, or like in Unity, if we are talking about building games on top of Unity is interpreted as as infinity, and you cannot just track black. And having a person with like a black skin is just like very hard to track that skin, to have like proper hand tracking and stuff. And there are like a lot of small details when it comes to to technology. So the technology itself is biased, and we are trying to do the maximum to just um, build something around that bias that is already in the technology that we are using. So this is like a really big topic, and I think yeah, it should be kind of discussed openly.
And I agree, Zach. I'm reading the comments here, and people in the audience are agreeing with you as well. So that's just further confirming what we already know. But I want to bring Alina back into the conversation, and Alina and I, we were part of the founding members of the CyberX Coalition, so we have a little bit more of insight into what has brought us to success to this point. But Alina, I remember one conversation we had, and you had to correct me because I was on my diversity and inclusion chant, or rant, and the importance of it, and we got to stay focused on this. And you corrected me in saying, April, even here in Germany, we experience racism, and diversity and inclusion is very in the forefront for us as well. And I had to take a step back and agree with you. And it's like, you are right. I don't have the exclusive right to it because I'm an African-American female, but I say that to say that equally important, to the global the global coalition perspective that we have, and bringing on advisors such as Janey and Zach, is that this is a universal concept, or a universal point that needs to be addressed from all fronts. And so I applaud you, Alina, for your efforts and commitment to that. But I want to ask you this, what have you seen, Alina, to be the points where, we have been able to fuel the loyalty to the mission and the vision of the CyberX Coalition, to expand a continued commitment to our cause and mission? What are some of the things that helped fuel that, the loyalty and the commitment to our cause and mission?
Obviously, we have a huge opportunity with all that we've discussed, that we have this opportunity to build a better future and to learn from the past mistakes of today's technology on various levels. And this is sort of glimpse of hope. And I also think that we owe it for the generations after us, right? So we are actually at the dawn of an era, entering spatial computing era, where the physical meets the digital worlds. And we shouldn't forget that we are building the underlying ecosystem for the generations to come. And being within the whole pandemic year, which actually accelerated the boost of emerging technologies. And it's not just only the siloed emerging technology, it will be the convergence of those technology. It's going to be the convergence of AR combined with AI, visual scene understanding, and real-time data that will give those technology a huge boost and importance, that it will change any aspects of our lives even further. And so that's why it is key that those technologies are built from the ground up with a perspective from various levels. The more diverse, and just to follow up on what Zach said, technology today is biased due to the history of technology. And there is a reason why in tech meetings there's a minority of female in there. And we need to sort of break the status quo and push further, because we owe it to the generations that come out after us. So, I mean, Just it really is a once in a lifetime opportunity that we have here. And so it's not about me as an individual. I think it's about us as a species, as a society, that the technology needs to also reflect the colorness and the differences of our society, which is not shown up today, unfortunately, which is really sad. But I think we have that glimpse of hope.
I agree. I agree. I want to continue with one thing that you said about women, or minorities or women's not being represented at the table. That's the one reason why the CyberX Coalition during Women's History Month promoted a hashtag or a new concept, as if you may, that was the power of three. And I found the article on that talked about when women are in a room, executive board room, what have you, decision makers. If one is there, most likely, their voice may not be heard. If two are there, then you'll see a slight shift because they can validate each other. But when three or more women are there as part at the board, at the table, the decision makers, that is where you really see a pivotal shift against the systemic notions and rules that are in place. And so I want everyone here to know that we will continue to discover more about that and even explore that concept and expand it, because we see the power in that, and we called it the power of three. And you can find information about that on our new website, or I think that panel that talked about that may be on our YouTube channel as well. But we do want to save time for audience questions, and I've seen some questions and comments posted in the chat. But if there are any questions from the audience, I'm going to let each of the panelists close with one fact or point or closing perspective, and then we will open it up for questions from the audience. So let's start with Zach on the end. Zach, a closing comment, perspective, point, or thought.
Sorry, my microphone was off.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there is one thing that I really insist on is like to really build a diverse software, you really need to have a diverse team. And if we just have this thing in mind as startup entrepreneurs or even managers working for big companies, if we just make sure that our teams are very diverse, hopefully we will end up having a diverse software. That's my last comment.
Yes. Thank you, Zach.
I just wanted to end and say that children are our future, and since they sit in front of live streams and video games all day, it would be very, very, very important for us to hit our mark with the kids so that they will be the adults that will end up helping to cause even more change into all the tech fields all around.
Yes. Alina?
I think we have the great opportunity with CyberXR as an independent organization to actually be the Achilles heel of all these big tech giants and push them even further and make sure that we build safe ecosystem. And also, I mean, there's also ways to develop and create without owning a headset. There are so many open source tools and ways to enter and build and bring your vision and ideas to life.
And to add that all that my three co-panelists have said before is that, one thing that I think is a foundational thing for the CyberX Coalition is that we started from a global perspective. And I think a lot of people in and outside the XR ecosystem forget that sometimes, that it's not just Silicon Valley. It's just not the East, West, North, or South, or what have you. This is a global collective. And that is equally important to be baked within every framework, the fabric of every framework, as well as any other collaborative efforts that we pursue. And with that, do any of the members of the audience have any questions? And while we're waiting, I do want to mention also that the XR Safety Initiative, XRSI, does have a booth during this conference. So if others want to have one-on-one conversations or what have you, please join us there at the XRSI booth in the what is it called? The Expo Center. We will look forward to talking to you there as well. Any questions? Either put them in the chat or raise your hand. And I see a hand there, and I'm sorry, Heather or Karen, can you help me navigate that? Okay, great, thank you.
Sure, yes, I'm happy to do so. Since my hand was one of them, let's ask Jay to unmute his mic and ask his question.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I was speaking earlier in the chat about what comments Janey was sharing, and Karen, you mentioned how courageous she was in putting herself out there. And I'm curious, was the stream provider helpful? Whatever stream provider you were broadcasting on, helpful in keeping you safe or giving you a sense of security through their trust and safety team or moderators or any type of education in order to help people understand marginalized communities?
Surprisingly, but not surprisingly, no. What I can say that because originally this started on Mixer, which was originally held by Microsoft. Um, you know, whenever it comes down to diversity and inclusion, for whatever reason, it's always seen as political. So they didn't have too much of a hand, but what they did allow for me to do actually was to continue speaking without getting cut off. Most streaming platforms, if you start talking about these things, they will shadow your stream. They will make you drop frames real crazy. They will actually take you off of the platform. What they did was they allowed me to be on the front of the platform. You have all these gaming streams, you have a bunch of Fortnite going on, and then there was just me, camera on, talking. So they allowed me to do this. Now, what they also did provide, because I would let them know, hey, is there any way that I could get some additional moderators, anything? They gave me the tools of protection in that sense. They didn't really know exactly how to help out with the conversation, but they did help me with at least giving me some moderators. They also strategically, and I found out this later, they strategically kept featuring me on the front. Like, I actually had staff members sitting in my stream. As soon as it would get juicy, they would forefront me. And they would just be ready just to moderate that chat. So they did help in those ways. But, I do commend them because they didn't know about diversity and inclusion. But now that I'm on Facebook Gaming, I'm actually a part of the Black content creators program, where we have been given spotlight, to do X, Y, and Z. They have been asking us in what ways can they help other content creators. So it's been a lot of me educating, but the most that all of these platforms can really do, because let's just be real, most people who are not a part of that community don't know about diversity and inclusion. The most that they could do is just give me the platform. So that's really what's been going on. And I'm hoping that it will trickle down to me getting more resources from people who do understand where I'm coming from. But, being able to be in the forefront and talk to people, sometimes that's the most that they'll give you. Sometimes, yeah. It's crazy.
Thank you, Janey.
Thank you, Janey.
I wanted to respond to a comment that Alina made about things like VR headsets not being compatible with people who wear turbans, for example. And there's just this brilliant project I know about that was started by a woman named Shannon Putman, who is completing her doctorate at the University of Louisville, a doctorate in education. And she is working with the Grace James Academy there, which is it's for girls. It's has an Afrocentric STEAM curriculum. And what Shannon has done is given these middle school age girls VR headsets. I think it's the Vive Focus, and she is having them redesign the headsets so that they work for them. And I just think that's so cool because they're learning about design and about how you create these hardware devices while they are feeling empowered to create something that works for them. So I just wanted to mention that.
For sure, for sure. And it's going to always take, persons like us and collective entities like the CyberXR Coalition and visionaries, right? Wherever they are meeting the new, the new current and, further expanded ecosystems that exist everywhere. So there's work to be done in multiple areas in multiple ways. I see that a couple of people have mentioned Joy. I cannot pronounce her last name, but Bulawini. I hopefully I'm not butchering it too much. And her phenomenal work. Oh my gosh, phenomenal work that she continues to get. And I know she does not do it for the glory of it. She does it just because it needs to be done and she believes in it. But oh my gosh, yeah, she's on my list to see. And I mean, I've followed her for years, and yes, her work alone is just phenomenal, powerful. I can't say enough for it. So yes, yes. One of the other things that the CyberXR Coalition that is on the forefront of what we'll continue to do is a next launch of either a piece of work or further expansion on our initial immersive tech standards. So be on the lookout for that as well. Not only do we serve as a voice for this ecosystem, but also for standards developing. And so that kind of puts us in a niche area as well, that we look at the full perspective of where does XR need to be in relation to the components and the collaborators and the governments even, and helping steer them in the right way. So if you want to join us for that as well, please visit us at our website, cyberxr.org. I think it's behind me or it's somewhere on one of the, the screens behind me. Please feel free to reach out to us if you want to be a part of that, the next level of standards buildings that we will be a part of. In addition to currently with the XRSI, they are currently working on a piece of work on the privacy perspective within the XR ecosystem. And Alina, if you want to speak briefly to that as well, but we want to make sure that you all know that this is an ongoing process. We will continue to lead the narrative, but the most recent work that we're instrumental in is with the XRSI's privacy framework. Alina?
I think I don't want to spoil too much, but we are definitely covering some topics that haven't been that represent in the first launch of, the privacy framework. And actually, yeah, I mean, you will hear from us once it is launched, and looking forward to the feedback from the community, which is always important, as it's still evolving technology, and so feedback from anyone who's reading it or any researcher, content creator, developer, yeah, it's always appreciated and welcome.
Yes. Well, I do want to mention once again as we wrap up this session that I know I will be there. I know some of the panelists have to jet off to their next projects or what have you that they're already committed to after this hour. But I will be at the XRSI booth in the expo area. If anyone wants to continue this dialogue or learn more about CyberXR. And then as well, I see that Karen is posted in the chat our website, and like I said, I think it's behind us on one of the boards as well. But myself, Janey, Zach, and Alina, thank you all for joining us for this discussion. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think were we all going to do the dance? Let's do the dance, guys.
Oh, wait, which one was the dance?
F7. F7.
Oh, yeah.
F7.
Oh, I started late.
F7.
I'm starting again. Go,
Right.
go. Oh, yes.
Go again.
Go.
Get
Yes.
That's nice.
Oh gosh.
Good fun. Good fun. All right.
Alrighty. I'm going to head over to the booth, everyone. Hope to see someone there. And if not, you have our contact information. This is April. Bye.
Bye,
Ciao.
everyone.
Bye,
Have a great
everyone.
day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, Karen, for helping out.
No problem. Very happy to.